I want to point out two things. Population growth is a key driver of economic expansion, and the U.S. economy relies heavily on immigrant workers across the skill spectrum. Canada has been the leader in that talent poaching that you're referring to. China, India, and the UK are following, but Canada specifically is spending $1.2 billion in a talent poaching initiative specifically for AI, cybersecurity, biotech, aerospace, and medical research. They're offering a 2-week turnaround, visas that are not employer specific. They're allowing for digital nomads, and they're allowing for visas that lead to permanent residency and citizenship. And the US is not doing those. We are about a 6-month turnaround, employer specific. We do not allow for digital nomads, and we do not have a path to residency or citizenship with our H-1B program.
For decades, the United States held an advantage that no rival economy could replicate. It was not just about money, military strength, or corporate giants. America's real power came from its ability to attract the smartest people on Earth. Scientists, engineers, researchers, and entrepreneurs from every continent chose the United States not just to work, but to build their lives. They didn't just contribute to the American economy, they became the backbone of its innovation. Silicon Valley, modern biotechnology, advanced aerospace, and the digital economy were not accidents. They were the result of an open system that rewarded talent regardless of where it came from. That system is now under stress, not because of war, not because of economic collapse, but because of deliberate policy choices. Under Donald Trump, the United States has begun tightening the very immigration pathways that once fueled its dominance. This shift is not loud or dramatic. There are no sudden shutdowns or headlines declaring the end of innovation. Instead, it is happening quietly, through delays, restrictions, uncertainty, and unpredictability. And in a global economy driven by speed and trust, uncertainty is often more damaging than outright bans. Highly skilled professionals plan years ahead. They move families, invest savings, and build careers across decades, not election cycles. When visa renewals slow down, when policies change without warning, when legal status feels fragile, talent does not protest. It simply adapts. And adaptation, in this case, means looking elsewhere. The message coming out of Washington today is not necessarily hostile, but it is unstable. For many in high-skill industries, that instability alone is enough to reconsider their future. This is where the story stops being just about the United States and starts becoming global. While Washington debates and restricts, other countries are acting. Canada, in particular, has been preparing for this moment for years. Not through confrontation or rhetoric, but through systems. Ottawa understood something critical early on. In a knowledge-driven economy, people are infrastructure. Roads, ports, and pipelines matter, but talent determines long-term power. Canada's immigration model sends a fundamentally different signal. It prioritizes predictability, faster processing times, work permits that are not tightly chained to a single employer, clear, realistic pathways to permanent residency and citizenship. This matters more than salary alone. Skilled professionals are not only chasing income, they are chasing stability, belonging, and the ability to plan a future without fear that a policy shift could erase everything overnight. This strategy is backed by serious investment. Canada has committed between $1.2 and $2 billion specifically to attract global talent in high-growth sectors like artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, biotechnology, aerospace, advanced manufacturing, and medical research. This is not generosity, and it is not charity. It is economic strategy. Canada is not trying to outmuscle the United States. It is trying to outposition it. The contrast with the U.S. approach is becoming sharper. The H-1B system, long a cornerstone of America's high-skilled immigration pipeline, has grown slower, more restrictive, and more uncertain. Visas are employer-specific, renewal timelines stretch for months, and pathways to permanent residency remain unclear. Digital nomad options are limited. For someone deciding where to build a life, these details are decisive. A 6-month delay is not just paperwork, it is risk. The consequences are no longer theoretical. Surveys and institutional data show thousands of scientists, engineers, and technical specialists actively considering leaving the United States. Foreign student enrollment, which feeds directly into America's innovation ecosystem, has already declined sharply. Universities lose top researchers, startups struggle to recruit, companies delay projects, labor shortages increase costs, which eventually reach consumers. Innovation does not collapse overnight. It thins out, slowly, until leadership slips away. There is a deep irony in this shift. Policies designed to protect domestic jobs risk weakening the very industries that create those jobs. Advanced manufacturing, artificial intelligence, clean energy, and biotechnology are not easily staffed through short-term training alone. They rely on global expertise, dense networks, and constant knowledge exchange. When those networks disperse, rebuilding them becomes extremely difficult. At the same time, China is making its own calculated adjustments. China's approach is not open in the same way as Canada's. It remains selective, controlled, and heavily monitored. But the direction is clear. Beijing is opening targeted pathways for STEM, AI, semiconductor, and advanced manufacturing talent, particularly in areas critical to long-term technological leadership. This is not about catching up. It is about redirecting global innovation flows. China understands that talent does not need ideological alignment. It needs opportunity, resources, and stability. Frustrated by uncertainty in the United States, skilled professionals are increasingly willing to consider alternatives they might have previously ignored. Canada and China are not coordinating policy, but they are benefiting from the same vacuum. This is not politics, it is opportunity responding to space. What makes Canada's position especially interesting is how closely it aligns with the leadership philosophy of Prime Minister Mark Carney. Long before entering politics, Carney argued that modern economic power is built on human capital, institutional trust, and long-term planning. His background in global finance and economic governance shaped a worldview that values attraction over exclusion. Under his leadership, Canada is not trying to challenge American power directly. It is reshaping its role quietly, through competence rather than confrontation. Canada is offering stability where the U.S. offers volatility, pathways where the U.S. offers uncertainty, inclusion where the U.S. signals restriction. This is how medium powers expand influence in the modern world, not through dominance, but through reliability. Talent notices these signals quickly. Scientists, engineers, and entrepreneurs want roots, not temporary contracts. They want to know that the place they commit to will still welcome them 5 or 10 years from now. History shows how powerful this dynamic can be. Silicon Valley was not inevitable. It was built by immigrants, networks, and open systems. Those same forces are now in motion again, but the destination is shifting. Canadian cities are becoming magnets for AI research, fintech, biotechnology, and climate technology. China is accelerating its own ecosystems with scale and state backing. Meanwhile, the United States is raising barriers at precisely the moment global competition demands openness. Leadership shifts rarely announce themselves. They begin quietly, almost invisibly. What looks like a visa policy today can become a competitiveness crisis tomorrow. Innovation ecosystems depend on density, trust, and momentum. Once that momentum breaks, recovery takes years, sometimes decades. The global talent pool is not emotional, it is rational. People go where they are welcomed, where they can build a future, and where their work is valued. Right now, America's signal is mixed at best. Canada's signal is clear. China's is strategic. If this trajectory continues, historians may not remember this period as a debate about borders. They may see it as the moment when the global center of innovation began to drift, not because the United States was defeated, but because it chose to close itself off in a world that rewards openness.